Today, we're digging into the story of a guy named William Bullock. Now, you probably never heard of him, but his incredible ambition and flair for the dramatic basically invented the museum as we know it today. Okay, let's just step back in time for a second. Picture it, the early 1800s. There's no internet, obviously, no TV, no nature shows. If you wanted to see, I don't know, a relic from ancient Egypt or some crazy-looking beetle from the Amazon, how would you even do that? Where would you go? Well, for a whole lot of people back then, the answer wasn't some stuffy government museum or a private royal collection. Nope. It was one man's personal creation, a single, ambitious, and just endlessly curious guy. You went to William Bullock's show. All right, so who was this guy? His story doesn't start in some fancy university. It starts in the world of business and a whole lot of showmanship. Let's get into his incredible rise, from a regular craftsman to London's #1 museum owner. And when I say rise, I mean it was fast. I mean, look at this. He's a jeweler in the 1790s. And just 5 years later, boom, he's got his own museum in Liverpool. But Liverpool wasn't big enough for him. He had bigger plans. So in 1809, he packs it all up and heads to London. A huge gamble. And it pays off. By 1812, he's set up in the absolute hottest spot in the city, the Egyptian Hall. And look, this wasn't just some junk drawer of weird stuff. From the get-go, Bullock had the real deal. His very first museum had actual artifacts from Captain James Cook's voyages. I mean, think about that. That was the most cutting-edge, must-see stuff on the planet. It's kind of like having a piece of the Mars rover in your living room today. And the place itself, the Egyptian Hall, was a huge part of the appeal. This was not some quiet, dusty old building. It was the place to be in London for a good time. It was flashy, it was exotic. Opening your museum there was like launching a new app on the main stage at a tech conference. It told everyone you weren't just a collector, you were an entertainer. So just how big did this thing get? At its peak, the collection had over 32,000 items. Let that sink in. 32,000 pieces. We're talking natural history, art, artifacts from all over the world, all in one place, and all owned by this one guy. It's just a scale that's almost impossible to wrap your head around for that time. So he's on top of the world, right? He's famous, he's successful, everyone in London is coming to his museum, and then he sells it, all of it. In 1819, he just auctions off the whole thing. Can you imagine? It must have been the talk of the town. Why on earth would he just give up this incredible empire he'd spent his life building? Well, the answer is pretty simple. William Bullock was not a guy who could sit still. He was already dreaming of his next big thing. And this next chapter of his life might be the most incredible one of all. He was literally about to trade in his fancy showman's hat for a pair of explorer's boots. But seriously, let's just linger on that question for a second. Why would you sell off your life's work when it's making you famous and rich? It wasn't because he was broke or failing. No, it was because he had a new dream. And this one was even crazier. So what was it? He sold everything to fund a trip to Mexico. Now, Mexico had just become independent, and to most Europeans, it was a total mystery. And he wasn't just going there to pick up a few cool artifacts. He was going to get into silver mining, a high-risk, high-reward bet. He was basically rebooting his entire life. And the way he did it was just brilliant. Look at the plan. Step 1, sell the old collection to get a pile of cash. Step 2, head to Mexico, becoming one of the first British guys to really explore the place. Step 3, collect a ton of brand new, amazing stuff. And then, and this is the best part, Step 4, he comes right back to London, to the same Egyptian Hall, and opens a brand new hit exhibition called Ancient Mexico. It's just genius. But of course, he wasn't done yet. Mexico wasn't the end game. For his final big act, he set his sights on the United States. And he wasn't just planning to move there, oh no. He wanted to build an entire, perfect city from scratch. He had a name for it and everything, Hygeia, named after the Greek goddess of health. He bought this massive piece of land right on the Ohio River. The vision was for this perfectly planned, beautiful town. This was supposed to be his masterpiece, his lasting legacy. This, however, is where the story takes a turn. The vision was grand, right? A utopian community designed by a famous architect. But the reality, it never happened. It ended up being just a failed land deal. The dream of this perfect society just fizzled out. And in 1846, the land was sold off. It seems even for a guy like Bullock, some dreams were just too big. Okay, the Utopia was a bust. Where does that leave him? How do we look back on this guy with all his crazy plans and constant reinventions? Well, his real legacy is a lot more interesting than just showman. It'd be easy to just write him off as a hustler, always chasing the next buck. But there's more to him. He was a guy full of contradictions. For instance, back in 1810, he was offered the chance to exhibit Sarah Bartman, the woman cruelly known as the Hottentot Venus. She was being paraded around Europe in this degrading spectacle, and Bullock was asked to participate. He said no. He refused. At a time when that kind of exploitation was common, he drew a line in the sand. And his actual accomplishments were pretty incredible. He wasn't just a showman. He published important books on Mexico. He was elected as a fellow to the Linnean Society, which is a huge deal in the world of science. He was a member of other scientific societies, too. He really did pioneer the whole idea of a big, popular museum for everyone. And he was the guy who opened Europe's eyes to the wonders of Mexican art and nature. So all of this brings us back to the big question, right? After a life like that, with these huge successes, these wild reinventions, and some big failures, who was the real William Bullock? Was he a showman? A scientist? A speculator? I mean, what do you think? The truth is, he was all of those things, wasn't he? A brilliant showman who knew what people wanted to see, a serious scientist who added to our knowledge of the world, and a bit of a gambler, always looking for the next big score. He was a pioneer, and he proved that one person's incredible curiosity could literally put the whole world on display for everyone to see.